Welcome back to Fables of the World. Today, our story unfolds in a secluded valley, a place where the very air seemed to carry whispers of the past, a place known as the Town of Echoes. Here, life moved at a slow, predictable pace, and the most remarkable thing about the town was its peculiar way of communication. The people of the Town of Echoes had developed a unique, almost ritualistic way of speaking. They echoed each other. From the moment a child learned to speak, they were taught the cardinal rule of their society, to repeat the words of others. If a baker greeted a customer with, "Good morning, the bread is fresh today," the customer would invariably reply, "Good morning, the bread is fresh today." If a farmer commented on the weather, saying, "Looks like rain is coming," a neighbor would nod and respond, "Looks like rain is coming." This wasn't meant to be mockery or a lack of understanding. It was simply the way things were done in the Town of Echoes. They believed that by echoing each other, they fostered harmony and avoided disagreement. To voice an original thought, to express a different opinion, was considered impolite, even disruptive. The smooth, predictable flow of echoed conversations was the very rhythm of their lives. Children in the town grew up learning to listen carefully, not to formulate their own responses, but to perfectly replicate what they had just heard. Their lessons revolved around pronunciation and tone, ensuring that the echoes were clear and precise. There were no debates in their schoolhouses, no passionate discussions around the dinner table. Instead, there was a constant, gentle mirroring of words, a linguistic dance where everyone followed the lead of the last speaker. They lived in a world of verbal reflections, where originality was a forgotten concept. Their art, too, reflected this unique characteristic. Their songs were often rounds, where melodies and lyrics repeated and intertwined. Their paintings depicted scenes that were almost photographic in their similarity, each artist rendering the world in a way that closely resembled the works of others. Their lives were a tapestry woven with threads of repetition, a comforting predictability that had become both their greatest comfort and their most profound limitation. They believed they were a town of unparalleled agreement, a haven of peace where no harsh words were ever spoken, no dissenting opinions ever voiced. But beneath this placid surface, something was missing. The vibrant spark of individual expression, the thrill of a new idea, the challenge of a different perspective, these were absent from the echoing streets and homes of the valley. One day, a young man named Elias arrived in the Town of Echoes. He was a painter, a traveler who journeyed from place to place, capturing the beauty and diversity of the world on his canvases. He had heard tales of the secluded valley, of its breathtaking scenery, and he was eager to capture it in his own unique style. Elias was a man of vibrant thoughts and bold expressions. His mind was a kaleidoscope of colors and ideas, and his art was a reflection of this inner world. When Elias first entered the town, he was immediately struck by the strange way the people communicated. He greeted a woman tending her garden, saying, "The flowers are truly magnificent today, a riot of color." The woman smiled politely and replied, "The flowers are truly magnificent today, a riot of color." Elias, thinking he hadn't been clear, elaborated, "The way the sunlight catches the petals, it's like they're on fire with beauty." The woman simply echoed again, "The way the sunlight catches the petals, it's like they're on fire with beauty." At first, Elias found it amusing, a quaint local custom. But as he spent more time in the town, the constant echoing began to feel unsettling. He tried to engage in conversation, to share his experiences from his travels, to discuss his artistic vision. But every attempt was met with a perfect, unwavering repetition of his own words. It was as if he were talking to a room full of mirrors, reflecting his voice back to him without any addition, any interpretation, any spark of personal thought. Elias set up his easel in the town square, eager to paint the stunning vista of the valley. He mixed his paints, choosing hues that captured the depth of the green hills and the brilliance of the azure sky. As he began to apply his brushstrokes to the canvas, a small crowd gathered to watch. They observed his every move, their faces placid and expectant. When he finished for the day, one of the onlookers commented, "That is a very colorful painting." Immediately, the others echoed, "That is a very colorful painting." Elias smiled, hoping for more, perhaps a comment on his technique or his choice of subject. But the echoes stopped there. Day after day, Elias continued to paint, his style bold and individualistic, full of swirling lines and unexpected color combinations. His paintings were a stark contrast to the muted, repetitive nature of the town. He painted the sunset not just as orange and pink, but as a fiery dance of crimson and gold melting into the twilight blue. He depicted the trees not just as tall and green, but as ancient sentinels whispering secrets to the wind with their emerald crowns. His art was a language the townspeople had never encountered before, a language of metaphor and emotion, of personal interpretation and unique vision. At first, the townspeople were bewildered by Elias's art. They had no framework to understand it. They couldn't simply echo his paintings. There were no words to repeat, only colors and shapes and feelings that seemed foreign to their carefully constructed world of repetition. They would stand before his canvases, their brows furrowed in confusion, unable to find the familiar comfort of echoed descriptions. Slowly, however, something began to shift in the town of echoes. The children, especially, were captivated by Elias's work. They had never seen colors used in such a way, had never imagined the world could be portrayed with such vibrancy and emotion. They would spend hours watching Elias paint, their eyes wide with wonder. And as they looked, something new began to stir within them. One day, a young girl named Lyra was watching Elias paint a field of wildflowers. He used strokes of purple and yellow and red, capturing the delicate beauty of each individual bloom. Later that day, Lyra was playing in a meadow with her friends. She saw a butterfly, its wings a kaleidoscope of colors, unlike anything she had ever truly noticed before. Instead of simply saying, "It's a butterfly," as she had always done, she exclaimed, "Look! Its wings are like tiny stained glass windows catching the sunlight." Her friends stopped their play and looked at the butterfly. For a moment, there was silence. No one echoed her words. It was something new, something original, something that came purely from Lyra's own observation and her own burgeoning imagination, perhaps sparked by the artist's vibrant canvases. Then, another child, emboldened by Lyra's expression, added, "And the way it flutters, it's like a tiny dancer in the air." A ripple of something new spread through the group of children. They began to see the world around them with fresh eyes, noticing details they had never paid attention to before, and expressing their observations in their own unique ways. They started to describe the clouds as fluffy sheep, drifting across a blue pasture, and the sound of the stream as a gentle song the earth sings. The adults, set in their ways of echoing, were initially perplexed by the children's newfound expressiveness. They would hear snippets of these original descriptions and exchange confused glances. But the change had begun. The seeds of individual thought, planted by Elias's art, were starting to sprout in the fertile minds of the young. As the weeks passed, the influence of Elias's presence became more pronounced. The town, once a symphony of echoed phrases, began to hear new melodies, hesitant at first, then gradually more confident. People started to add their own thoughts to the echoed phrases, like adding a new harmony to an old tune. The baker might say, "Good morning, the bread is fresh today, and it smells particularly good this morning because of the new rosemary I added." The customer might then reply, "Good morning, the bread is fresh today, and it smells particularly good this morning because of the new rosemary you added. I think I'll take an extra loaf." The fear of saying something different began to fade, replaced by a tentative curiosity about what others truly thought and felt. The art of conversation, once a predictable mirroring, began to evolve into a genuine exchange of ideas. The town of echoes was slowly finding its own voice, a chorus of individual expressions blending together to create a richer, more vibrant sound. Elias, watching this transformation unfold, felt a deep sense of satisfaction. He had not come to change the town, but simply to capture its beauty. Yet, in sharing his own unique way of seeing the world, he had inadvertently sparked a revolution of thought and expression. He realized that true harmony wasn't found in perfect repetition, but in the beautiful, sometimes messy, interplay of individual voices. When it was time for Elias to leave the town of echoes and continue his travels, the people gathered to bid him farewell. For the first time, their farewells were not perfect echoes. They thanked him for the colors he had brought into their lives, for the new ways of seeing he had inspired. They spoke of their hopes for the future, a future where their valley would still be a place of peace, but also a place where every voice had its own unique echo, a reflection of an individual heart and mind. And as Elias waved goodbye, he knew that the town of echoes was no longer just a place of repetition, but a place where the seeds of individuality had finally taken root, promising a future filled with the vibrant and unique music of their own voices.